You know that, Chris.
I think we were here.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
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 Oh,
You know that, Chris.
Yeah, we're rolling with
Mike and Anderson, you guys need to have a picture up. Like seriously, we need to have a picture of you guys. We cannot continue without having a picture of you guys.
Okay.
That's
But I
important.
look like a monster.
And not Brad Pitt, Anderson. Not Brad Pitt, dude.
I look
5,
like his brothers too.
4,
Stupid.
3.
Welcome to We Could Be Wrong, but Who Cares? I'm Anderson.
Christopher Harris.
Sean.
Sansu.
And Mike.
And Mike.
Ladies and
Hi.
gentlemen. That was invented by the mighty Sun Tzu. She invented that and Mike. So
Allegedly.
give her all credit to that. That's I guess
Put
it's
it in the credits. Yeah, in the description of our show.
I was told to my face that it's very possible I don't want to use the word pander to, but that I push false information. And when someone tries to retort to that false information, I quickly move on. When asked what false information I gave, the individual stated that I allowed other panelists to make a statement that is obviously skewed to one side. And then when another person tries to reply to it, I quickly shoot it down and move on, allowing that false information to stay lingering.
Christopher, I know you're trying to be discreet, but it's kind of obvious who you're talking about. So just go ahead and.
So I'll go ahead and do it. On the last show, I said I was out of scale of 1 to 10. I'm a high 7. I'm actually a 9.5. So sorry to the audience for giving that false information.
Well, guys,
That's true disclosure. True disclosure right there.
Right,
the show
and I tried to retort and say, no, he's almost a 10, and Christopher just moved on and didn't allow for me to correct that.
Because Chris is a hater.
The show is called We Could Be Wrong, but who cares? But
except for Anderson.
There is a time where we just can't make blatant, straight, like just lies. We can't just lie about straight stuff, and one of us has to be mature enough to say, hey, that's not true, or what you're saying sounds utterly wrong. The show is called We Could Be Wrong, but who cares? But there's, there has to be a line drawn from just lying to you, the audience, because some of you guys will believe it, and then being responsible. That's all I want to say about that. Want to let you guys know there's an opening on the panel. We do need a conservative.
Female, preferably.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Why not?
Get more balance.
We would like everyone to know it's not about just digging in your heels. It's also about growing and learning. You're never too young to teach, and you're never too old to learn. Think about that. Okay. So I'm going to step down from being the moderator. I think I need to at this moment. And I'm going to pass the baton, and we're going to let other people on the panel give it a shot where they could show that they could listen and talk and be neutral without just oppressing their own views on us. And I'm going to float around. So today's lucky man will be Sean. Sean will tell us the topics, and we're going to go from there. Sean, are you ready to take the baton?
I am.
Run with it, my friend.
All right. So the first topic we had that we discussed is we want to talk about the reports about the exodus from the Republican Party after what's been going on. A format I like to use, guys, is I like to ask each one the same question so we can actually get your answer. Instead of kind of moving in linear pattern, we kind of get the same answer from everybody on what they feel about the question. So I guess the first question I want to talk about, because I feel myself as an independent. So the first question I want to ask all you guys is, what is it that's important about the Republican Party to you? And I want to start with Mike, since he's the most furthest away from what I consider the Republican Party and work more toward the Republicans. So Sun Tzu, you'll get the last word on this. So Mike, what do you think are the main and most important parts of being a Republican?
Wow. What's the other side consider most important? Boy, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we have like
I've
unlimited
always-
time to answer, or just ask?
yeah, I've always, yeah.
Well, just your opinion. And I mean, if you don't have much of an opinion, you can say, I don't have much of an opinion. I'm not sure. And we can move on. But I just want to know, what if you had to say what the most important parts of Republican is, what you think is most important to them, what would you think it is? Just, 1 or 2 points that you think are important.
Okay, I think I'm having a difficult time separating Trump from the Republican Party. But I think what in the last 4 years, what was extremely important to Republicans was nationalism, feeling good about our country, worried that our country is changing quickly, worried about the impact that immigrants are having on our country and how it's changing us and changing us in ways that they might not necessarily like.
Mm-hmm.
I think Republicans are that's the biggest thing right now.
Okay.
I was going to say typically I would have said, one of the first things I would have said is typically Republicans tended to be fiscally conservative, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. They've gotten away from that in the past 4 years. And
Well, we'll come to that part too, because I think it's 2 different parts in reality. But that's why I just want to get your point about what the basics of is.
okay,
And Anderson, what do you think?
I feel comfortable with that. Thanks.
Yeah.
To me, the Republican Party. Well, I'm actually a registered independent, by the way.
Yep.
But of course, I usually lean more Democratic, as some of you guys will know. But my ideal of the Republican Party is more. I'll have to go to Reagan, even though I wasn't able to vote around that time because I was so young. It's just so different, and I don't know. I feel like the state of emergency is on the Republican Party. I don't know where they're going. It's just in terms of, I have to go back to Ronald Lincoln. They were to fight slavery, and then you go all the way back to the 60s, and you got the Republican Party fighting for segregation. And then you fast forward to now, it's just like, I just don't know what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just confused.
Well, that's one reason I'm asking you guys, because I honestly don't know as an independent myself. Chris, what's your feeling? Sun Tzu, you'll definitely get the last word, because I'm very curious on what a true Republican has to say about this. But Chris, what's your feelings?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So what do you think the most important part about being a Republican is to the Republicans? What are the most important aspects of being a Republican?
An important aspect of being a Republican is to have limited government and to have the pursuit of freedom, to be able to go and get what you can get through your own hard work, to truly encompass what we considered the American dream, to where there's no kings or no one above you, but what you can do for yourself. That is what makes a Republican to me.
Okay, good answer. All right, Sun Tzu, I'm very curious.
Okay, a couple of things. I think protecting the Constitution. I think that's what makes a Republican. That's part of our beliefs and our ideology. which essentially means, our freedoms, our freedom of speech, our freedom to bear arms, our right to bear arms, I'm sorry. Also, I would say promoting law and order. I like, when I think of a Republican, I think of law and order, and that being a big piece, of what they believe in. Also, protecting human life, which is more, geared towards infants or unborn children. That's a big piece as well. And, equality and capitalism. I think Chris kind of, he mentioned those two already, but like they were the party to free the slaves and to, create equality amongst all Americans. And so those would be like the main basics that's important to a Republican.
So I guess a quick yes or no question for each of you. Do you think this philosophy has stood through the whole Republican Party, from the beginning of the Republicans? Is this the same philosophy that they've kind of followed? Mike?
No, it's changed. Of course, it's changed in time.
Okay. Anderson?
Yeah, same answer. They changed.
Okay. Chris?
Well, no, but I don't think that's really a fair question either, because I just don't think it's a fair question.
But you're right.
Parties change always due to,
Well, the
culture, the environment.
Well, I mean the base philosophies. Has it changed, or has the base philosophy always been the same for the Republicans?
Well, no, but we know that before the Republicans were even the Republicans. You know what I mean? So
I get you.
No.
Okay, Sun Tzu?
Your question was, has it changed?
Yeah, I mean, do you think this philosophy's been the same the whole time through the Republican Party that it's been in?
At its core, yes. I think it has stayed the same.
Damn it. Sorry, guys.
He's fired.
I know it. Well, I forgot to take the batteries out of the phone. My wife's not answering, so I just opened it and left it hanging on the thing. All right, next question. This, I think, is really a good question. Do you currently feel there are two Republican parties? And again, I'm not judging on anything on this, but to me, just my opinion, there seems to be a Trump party and a true Republican party. Do you think there are two, or do you think they're one and the same, or do you think there's one that's there and not there? Mike?
Why don't you reverse the order this time?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, okay, we can reverse. I kind of like to hear what Sun Tzu has to say at the end, since we've got three people that are basically not Republicans.
How dare you?
I'd kind of like to give the Republican the last answer on this, in my opinion, because we're going to have three people saying stuff that may not be the same.
I'm a Republican.
Okay. The question was then, are you seeing a split to the degree that there are two different parties?
Correct. Is there a Trump party and is there a mainstream Republican?
That remains to be seen. It's too soon,
right,
to determine that. But I think there's definitely, Trump still has a lot of influence. He's very strong, very popular. So of course he's going to have a lot of influence. And then there are those within the party that see that could be, negative or detrimental to the overall effect of what they want to have on the American people.
Mm-hmm.
So, but only time will define that. It's going to take probably a year before we can answer that question.
Good answer.
Directly.
And it does. Okay, well, we'll go this way. Either Chris or Anderson, do you guys disagree with Mike's answer?
I agree with it.
No, well, I don't think it's too soon to answer that question. Absolutely, there's two different Republican parties going on right now. Absolutely. I don't think it's too soon. I think I have videotape I can show you now that shows that. Want me to play? I can play the tape.
Well, let's hear what Sun Tzu has to say first. I'm curious.
I would agree with Chris. There is, but I feel like what happened or what's happening is you have a group of Republicans that are veering away from what I feel is the core values of a Republican. For whatever reason, there can be all these reasons, right? And I feel like Trump, when he came into office, he reestablished what most Republicans believed in.
Oh, it's so hard being. You know what? Hey,
That's-
first of all, I'm sorry, Sensi, for interrupting you. But first of all, I want to say that it's hard to be a panelist because you don't know how bad I want to disagree with her. But go on.
Yeah, but too bad you can't. So, Sean, that's where you tell him, Chris, hold on, let Sensi finish.
Yeah.
Right.
He's biting his tongue. I can see him, Sun-Tzu. He's biting it.
Good. Let him bite. No, I think that I represent a lot of the people who support former President Trump, because that was what was so refreshing about him, is that even myself, we didn't expect what he eventually did. I didn't think he would, protect and really facilitate all these conservative values, and he did. And most people, in the media who hated him, didn't like him, that disagreed with him, one being like Glenn Beck, realized that he actually was pushing a lot of conservative values at the end of the day. So I feel like that's why a lot of people flipped to them supporting him, was because of that.
So I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but well, I know you saw part of it, but originally Mitch McConnell came out after the January 6th thing. And even though he voted to acquit, he said he thought President Trump was responsible for or at least had something to do with the insurrection. He just had a thing today that he was asked that if President Trump or former President Trump won the GOP nomination, would he vote for him? And Mitch said yes. So I guess the question I have for you guys is, do you think that former President Trump's statement that the Republican Party can never again be respected or strong with political leaders like Mitch McConnell at the helm? Do you think this? I know. Do you think that help or hurts the party? And do you agree with that statement that the Republican Party will never be good with someone like Mitch at the helm? Did you want to go first, Sun-Tzu? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
No, go ahead,
I think
Sun-Tzu.
we all agree with that, because he's been in the office or been in the Senate for like over 40 years or something like that. Like, he's the longest standing senator that we've ever had. And so we've talked about the fact that the corruption and things like that, and power, the fact that he flip-flops like that, he's being a politician. And how can you respect that? How can you say that he has any integrity if he sat there and said that President Trump was solely responsible for the insurrection? Like, he truly, he went into it. Like, he really sounded like he was going to support the impeachment. But then now he's saying he would actually vote for someone that he really believes incited that. Like, why would anyone do that? So again, he's crooked. He has no integrity. He's a total politician, part of the swamp, and he needs to be out of there. And I think President Trump is right. And I don't even think he's implying that he himself has to be the one representing. I think we need different people. We need different people that are not corrupt.
I think that's one thing we've all agreed on this panel at one time or another, is that we do need term limits. That's I think the one true fact that we've all said, yes, we agree. Chris, I know you're biting at the lip, dude. What do you think about that?
This is what I think. I think that loving Trump is a great way to make money. Great way to keep you in power. Great. Oh, thank you. I thought I heard someone speaking over me. Anyways,
like how you spoke over me, Mr. Harris. Don't even go there.
I think it's a great way. It's a great business plan, because you have people that eat, sleep, dream Trump, and as long as they do that, they'll give me their money. Hell, I bet if I run around with a Trump flag and ask for money, people will give me money. I bet it. As a matter of fact, I'm considering doing it because I want extra pocket change. I think that McConnell's doing what McConnell has to do to make sure he stays in power like he is, because no one's going to vote him out, because everybody knows secretly that he knows what he's doing to keep and help the Republican Party. Is he great? No. But he has to say what he has to say, because there's people like Sun Tzu who feels like she feels about him. So he has to play the game. Now, there was a lot of things that being said that Trump came in and showed what Trump doesn't care about conservatism. His actions shows he doesn't care about conservatism. I was
Ooh, make him
arguing
prove that, please. Make him prove that.
his
Or at least give an
actions.
example.
His
Give an
actions,
example of that.
having his son say it's no longer the Republican Party, it's the Republican Party of
What
Trump.
does that have to do with conservatism? You can't say that his actions don't back
Because
conservatism
he
and bring
does.
that up.
Okay, what does conservatism mean to you? What does conservatism mean to you? Like literally,
Well,
what does that mean to you?
No, you should say what it means to you if you're saying that he doesn't support it.
Conservatism means to me to be conservative and to do your best to move forward, right? While having the values of a religious base. That's what a conservative means. That's why you have all those preachers behind them. But I don't think Trump goes to church. I don't think he even cares about church. I don't even think he really reads the Bible. I think all he cares about is his name being on everything, his face being on Mount Rushmore. If he could, he would be on actual money because he loves money. I think his
he knows
God
how
is
to
the
work
mind bill.
things, Chris. He knows how to work things, and we understand that part. But let's stay on topic.
Sean, I know, like he's saying he loves money. We've seen all politicians love money, haven't we?
No, I totally agree.
Then what separates him from the other politicians then? Then why is he so great if he's just like all the other ones?
You're saying he's like all the other ones. I'm
exactly.
saying
I am saying he's all like the other ones.
If that's such a problem for you, then you should have a problem with all the
it's
other
a problem
politicians.
And by the way, I'm not. You are strong. You are a woman. Here you war. Okay. This is not. I'm not talking about you. But there's a lot of sheep out there that just get caught up with their friends and just want to love him to love him. You're not one of those people, by the way. Not you.
But you think that it's easy. Okay, this is what's funny when you talk about sheep. And this is, again, we're going off topic, but I just want to address this. The whole sheep thing is funny to me because those people that you guys claim are sheep
yes,
have to walk around in fear, at least before.
Wait a minute.
Wearing anything Trump, with saying, even speaking in the workplace because they're afraid of being let go and fired. I mean, I know people that have even put statements out there on their profile and their bosses have to take it off.
Well, every job doesn't want you to talk politics, right?
No, but if you have Black Lives Matter, they had no problem with that. So my point is this.
Was Black Lives about politics, or was it about, or was it about people of color getting killed?
You can't be a sheep. You can't be a sheep. You can't claim someone's a sheep when it actually takes courage to actually say that you believe in something, knowing that you're going to get the backlash and all. And even, hey,
Sean, how come you're not controlling your panel, dude? We're talking about courage.
Wait a second.
I'm going to let you guys go for another minute. Then we got to get back on topic.
Sean, I'm your Renee, so I get to just blab on as much as I want.
Okay,
hey,
whoa, whoa, wait, what's going on here?
Right in the gut, right? You like that? You like that little jab to you?
Wow, it's getting deep. Okay, hold on, Anderson and Mike. What did you guys think about that question? Do you think that the statement made by Trump against Mitch McConnell is splitting the party, or do you think it's helping it?
Helping Trump?
Or helping the party?
Oh no, hell no. You can't be Mitch McConnell said that Trump has something to do with the insurrection and then say he's going to vote for him.
Right.
You just can't do that.
Yep.
You're like, so what's going on?
Yeah.
Are you with us or you're against us?
Agreed. Mike?
What's the context of him saying he would vote for him? I know
so. It actually just came out this morning. He was on.
I'm not trying to hedge, but what's the context there?
No, it's all right. It was. I can't remember if it was Fox or one of the news stations. It was only today that he came out, and that the host asked him, "Well, if he won the GOP nomination, would you vote for him?" He didn't say he'd vote for him in the primaries, but he said if he won the GOP nomination, he would vote for Trump over a Democrat.
Well, okay. As a diehard Republican, I guess he's stuck with the guy he's got, whether he likes him or not. He's stuck with him. Just like remember how horrible it was to be a Democrat and have to vote for Clinton, Hillary? I'm not trying to, it's just weird, that part of the context of what he said. But to go back to your original question, I looked carefully at what I was upset that McConnell wasn't one of the ones, or other Republicans. I knew there wasn't going to be 15 Republicans that were going to vote for impeachment. That wasn't going to happen. Okay. McConnell made it clear that impeachment was the wrong process at the wrong time. It wasn't the way to deal with the sins of Trump. If you wanted to deal with the sins of Trump, you had to do it in court in a legal basis, okay? Not through impeachment. So once the impeachment trial was over and he had voted to not impeach, he immediately came out and said, I don't care. The man, as far as I'm concerned, is guilty in essence, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. To me, that was a fairly wise move because what it did was it said to the other Republicans, I'm not just a Trumper to be a Trumper. I'm going to do the right thing or try to find the right path here in this whole process. And I think the Republican Party is more important than Trump. That's the way I took that.
No, I agree. I totally agree.
I like that, Mike.
Yeah.
I like that.
So here's an interesting question that I have. And I got one for both sides, so don't think it's one-sided anybody. What do you think about the Executive Committee of the Republican Party of Louisiana unanimously voting to censure Senator Bill Cassidy for voting to impeach Trump? Do you think that's right?
Oh,
I haven't heard that.
He's a Republican.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Because he's a Republican.
Right.
Okay.
So they censured him because he voted to impeach Trump, the Republican Party of Louisiana. Right. What's your feeling on that?
I heard an interview, Sean, that I hope I can bring it back into my brain right now, but somebody was talking about their particular senator. I think it was the guy from Pennsylvania. And the guy said, we don't want you to vote your values. We don't want you to vote your conscience. We don't want you to vote what's right. We want you to vote for the way we fucking put you in office to vote. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Isn't that what politicians do, though? Isn't that what they do? I mean, that's what McConnell's doing, right? It's like, that's what they do.
What do you mean by that, Spencer?
Like, that's what they do as politicians, is they're protecting their party. And so I feel like
it's not about protecting the party.
That leads to a good question. Should it be party? Well, it leads to a good question. Should it be party first or America first?
America first, hands down.
Thank you. Good. How about you, Chris, Mike, Anderson?
America.
Good.
America.
It should never be about the party first.
It should be the region in which you represent. The area
is the American people in that area, of course. Yeah.
Well, what's good for people in Wisconsin is not necessarily good for people in California.
All right.
Well, yeah.
I understand. But if you had to put it in context, would you do America, then region, then party? Or because America has to fall someplace in there.
Well, agreed. And your original question was, this senator gets censured, or whatever he was, senator or representative.
Senator.
He's getting censured because basically he was elected to support I'm assuming to support the Republican Party. He, of good conscience, said, look, I'm sorry, I'm a Republican, I vote Republican. I hope his record shows that. But in this particular instance, this man broke the law, and I believe he needs to be held accountable. I'm assuming that's why he did what he did. So in answer to your question, no, I don't think he should have been censured, because if you are only going to vote according to a particular slate, why do we have a democracy, for God's sakes?
Good point.
What's the point? I mean,
Yeah, you're hurting democracy.
Yeah. Chris?
I agree with the other two gentlemen.
Sun Tzu, do you think the same way?
Well, my thing is this: is anyone who's going to stand up for the senator or say that that's wrong, I hope they feel the same way with all the other censorship that's going on to the right side, because it's happening a lot more to people who are, like we heard about the book that the Amazon is no longer going to be the platform to sell. I can't remember who wrote it, but like you're seeing just all this stuff, right? And then you saw Parler, they took Parler completely off the map. So if anyone has a problem with this, I hope they have a problem with all the other stuff that's going on, because it's the principle, right? And that's what everyone's about.
Like culture, like council culture is something brand new. It's been happening since forever with music in the 80s. It's not brand new.
Not to this degree, Chris. Not to this degree. You have Gina Carano that got fired from the show that she was on.
She was on Disney.
She retweeted something.
I'm pretty positive. I'm pretty positive that in her contract she has a stipulation and how she's supposed to.
No, don't say that. You're assuming that because you're assuming.
She
Did you
works for
watch her
Disney.
interview? Did you
That
listen
is
to
for
her
sure.
interview?
With
Yes,
Ben
she does.
Shapiro? I did not listen to the interview with Ben Shapiro. But
well, I think that you should know what's going on and why they fired her. They didn't say that it was because
every
she broke
artist
everything.
that works with a major company like Disney has a contract that stipulates how they act,
how they portray the company.
Exactly.
But that wasn't the reason that was given to her. So clearly, if it was, they would have.
What was the reason given to her?
They said so before, when she was posting stuff about conservative stuff, they were putting her on notice. They brought her in. They said that she needs to recant on stuff or apologize for stuff, because one of them was the LGBTQ or transgender community took offense to something that she said, and she's like, that's totally not what I said. So she clarified that. But then that wasn't good enough. And so she kind of was like, wait, why did I apologize for something that I didn't mean? She's like, I've protected people. I have friends that are, LGBTQ, and, I defend them. She's a fighter, and she's like, I would never do that. So she's like, you know what, if they're going to still take it the wrong way, whatever. She moved on. Then again, they brought it to her attention again. It was just, they didn't like that she was taking a stance that goes against what they believe in, and that was it. It was not you
goes against what they believe in for monetary reasons, right?
I think nowadays is very difficult, because nowadays what we say goes out to the world. Where when I was a kid, and I know when Mike was a kid, we didn't have Facebook to post something or Twitter to post something that I would worry about everyone seeing it. I tell my kids all the time.
Signals?
No, yeah. We had to use actually house phones attached to the wall with a cord and a dial. But, I tell my kids all the time, be careful what you post on social media, because it can come back to bite you depending on what someone else's personal views are.
Sean, can you do me a favor? Will you look? I'm driving. Can you look the tweet? Because I remember when they read the tweet, I was like, what was wrong with that? She retweeted someone's tweet. If you can pull it up, because I think it's important to give everyone the context of what was
Chris, can you check?
Yeah, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
because I don't know it, so that'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question I have is kind of on the other side. What about the request of the Ethics Committee to determine whether Senator Hawley and Senator Cruz incited violence by voting against certifying the presidential election? Anderson?
That's an interesting one.
Repeat that again.
So what do you think about the Ethics Committee? There was a request to the Senate's Ethics Committee to determine whether Senator Hawley and Senator Cruz incited violence by voting against certifying the presidential election. What's your feeling on that?
Well, they said that the election was stolen, which was not, and they kept pressing and pressing.
Well, I guess my question is it their right to vote against certifying the election? And should there be consequences for them not voting just to certify it? There's been many, if you look back through history, there's usually always at least 1 or 2 members or 10 members of the House.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, there should be punishment, because they have no.
You'll get your chance.
They have no. They'll have no evidence that the election was stolen.
Okay.
So I said yes.
Mike?
There should be consequences.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. That's
real tricky.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Again, it's the same issue we just talked about. If he's going to vote in good conscience and he has the ability to be independent and vote his heart or his belief, then he has to be able to do that, and he shouldn't be censored for that.
Exactly.
Chris?
Mike, you're on it today, Mike.
Well, it's just being honest. It's all should be about what individuals have the right and right not to do. Like I started to say, that for almost every election, there's been members of the House that have voted against certifying the election. It's always happened, every election.
Mm-hmm. It's
the problem is
symbolic. It's like a symbolic act.
Right. The problem is it takes a member of the House and a member of Congress to actually certify it, which is why it's never happened with Congress doing it before.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Do you want me to read the tweet from Gina Carano, or?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Well, she
Okay.
had a few tweets as well.
Yeah, she had a series of tweets. You know, she was.
It was the more recent one that she sent out.
Yeah.
That she retweeted.
But it accumulated. Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Sad face emoji. Because history is edited. Most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is this any different from hating someone for their political views?
Okay. And she retweeted that. That wasn't her, but I guess it's the same thing, right?
Well, I think it's funny that a lot of people from the right are mad that, you know, she tweeted her political view, but yet they want, you know, sports figures to shut up and not talk about their political views, but our actors can. I think that's
when have they tried to shut anyone up?
I'm sorry. When?
When? Wow.
Colin Kaepernick.
LeBron James.
LeBron James? Do you really want me to go on?
Just
as
kneeling?
far as I know, they were never fired from their job.
Colin
Where's
Kaepernick.
now? He's not playing. He hasn't been playing for like over 7 years now.
Because he sucks. He's terrible. Are you kidding me? He was riding the bench before all that happened. He
Why would they
himself.
fire an athlete for fighting for police brutality?
Yeah.
Well, and
No,
I
but
have
the
to.
point is the point is that the political view, right? That they're using their platform to.
But
to
it's not a
voice
political view if
You-
you're fighting for police brutality.
It is.
Against police
It is all political.
How
It
is
is all
that?
political, and
So-
because our politicians make it political. That's why. Not really us. It's them. So
But,
it is a
exactly.
political thing.
But this
Right,
an
so-
athlete who is happened to be black that is fighting for basically minorities not to get beat up and killed on the streets by law enforcement. I mean, how's
Right.
that political?
It's very political because first of all, the statistics don't back that up, and so they're perpetuating a narrative that is not true and not backed by
Well,
statistics.
let's not go down the
defense on their
statistical
side.
attitude of black people getting shot. I mean, let's get.
Well, no, I don't want to go into
Let's have an
numbers, but
episode on that.
I'm just saying that that's why that it is seen
Anderson,
as a political.
You're not getting it, Anderson. He was fighting on the wrong side. He should have loved Trump back then too, and then he would have been okay.
It had nothing to do with Trump.
Oh, bull had nothing. And you know what?
Nothing to do with
You know
Trump.
what, Christopher, again, the bottom line, the person that got canceled was Gina Carano. No one else got canceled.
Well, she should
didn't like
have
Trump.
not retweeted anything because
Oh,
she had
really?
been
She
continuously
doesn't have the
tweeting
right to
things.
do that. She
No,
doesn't have
you
the right to
said
do
yourself, Sun Tzu.
You're-
They
you're
had
not for
brought her
freedom
in
of
and told her,
speech, then.
hey, you know what?
One at a time, guys.
Calm it down. Right? You said that yourself in her interview that I didn't watch. You said they had already brought her in and told her, hey, let's simmer down a little bit. And she's like,
Yeah,
okay.
but what
then she
right
went
does
out and
our
did it more.
employer have to do that? What right does our
Well,
Because
employer
they're a
have to do
business that wants
Okay.
money. And if people say, how dare you say that you're equating being a Trump supporter to Jews when there's 6 million killed? And they get mad and say, you know what? We're gonna not watch you anymore. And then you might be labeled anti-Jewish. Yeah, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna get rid of that person. Of course,
Yeah,
they're a
she's-
business. They're a company. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Employees are part of the public face of an establishment. And that's reality today. Again, that goes back to what Sean said, not 30 years ago, but today, what you say and what you do on the media is very public. And it is a part of the public face of that organization. And if that organization doesn't like that part, they have a right to be able to say, hey, you need to cool it. And if that person doesn't follow that, then, I can see why they take other measures. And I don't know anything about this lady. It's the first I've heard of it. But
She's an MMA fighter. I think you've probably seen her. She's been in movies, but I guess my thing is that many of you who have had to fire anyone, there's always a process of writing them up and putting them on a performance plan and all these things. Even though we're an at-will state, there is a process that you need to comply with to make sure that they can't sue you for
Sure.
for terminating
Like-
them for whatever reason, whether it's
Prejudice.
you're being
Yeah,
racist
prejudice
or whatever, which is
termination. Sure,
prejudice. Right. So with this situation, there wasn't write-ups, there wasn't that whole process. And it just seems like when the employer is leaning towards the left or towards those views, it's okay. They get away with it. There's no issue. Like, I
we
just
don't know
get
that
it. Like,
she wasn't written up prior.
she talks about it in the that's why the interview is important for people to watch if we're going to talk about that, because she talks about it in the interview. There
We didn't
were
bring
no
it up.
official write-ups.
Well, again, I think Chris is correct in one point that a lot of bigger companies in their contract do have that you can be fired if you're bringing bad light to the company. I don't know about this individual situation, Sun Tzu, because I didn't research this prior to, so I don't want to make any rash statements. But I think you're right. I mean, this may be a good subject to look at in the future when we can do a little research and come up with it. Because right, if this lady was unfairly terminated, she should have rights against it. I hope it's not just the right doing this or just the left doing this. You know, I hope we try to keep it middle of the road. So I guess, so last question on the Republican Party. What do you guys honestly think about? Is there a definite feud between Trump and McConnell? Or do you think it's just politics?
I say no, because McDonald, he's gonna fold. If he wins the nomination, he's gonna fold. He's gonna go Trump all the way, 100%. So no.
Mike?
I think McConnell's going to fight more for the Republican Party and try to make it more middle of the road. Personally, that's what I think he would do.
I doubt it.
That's what I said. I told him the same
Hell
thing.
no.
I know.
Especially with the statement that he made today.
Well, but that again, that's why I wanted the context of that, Anderson, because if the statement is black and white, well, if he because consider the entire statement, he wins the Republican nomination, okay, and McConnell is going to turn on the Republican Party at that point and not vote Republican. No, I'll vote Republican. That was the question.
Yeah,
but I think McConnell will continue to work to solidify a conservative party. And I think McConnell will continue to work against Trump in that regard.
All right. Sun Tzu?
Yeah, I think that McConnell will always secretly hate Trump. He was one of those people from the very beginning, right? Like Lindsey Graham, that there was a bunch of them that hated him. Did you say, was the question, is he going to protect the Republican Party or is he going to vote?
No, I said, do you think
there's their secret rivalry between
is there
those?
really a big feud between Trump
Yes.
and McConnell, or is it all just going to blow over and it's not going to be a deal?
Yes, I think there is a feud. I think that McConnell is afraid of the exposure that I think that Trump just barely scratched the surface on. And not only is he a threat to the Democratic Party, but to the Republican Party too. We've agreed both sides are corrupt. So I think he's afraid of that. That's why there's a feud.
So just so you guys know, I did some research on this, and there was
Skip me.
Go,
What's that?
Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Totally skip me. You're trying to censor
okay.
me.
I'm culture
You're trying to
Sean,
censor
continue.
me.
Sean, you're in charge. Don't let him tell you what to do.
All right, go ahead, Chris, real quick. You have 30 seconds. Go.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, then.
there is a humongous food because
Untitled.
McConnell is going to do his best to go and make sure he keeps Trump out, but he needs to say all the right things to prevent people like Sun Tzu from getting angry.
Okay.
I'm gonna get angry.
So just so you guys know, I actually looked at the most recent Gallup poll on this because everyone said there's mass exodus from the Republican Party. Well, what it identified is that basically about 25% of adult voters are Democratic, 25% are now saying they're Republican, and about 50% are saying independent after this whole thing going on. It said when independents were pushed to lean toward a party, about 50% lean toward Democrats, about 41% leaned Republicans, and the other 9% were non-committal. And these numbers look about the same to me that it has been in the past. The Democratic Party has always been a little bit bigger. They're just not voters. So I'm not sure what you guys think about those statistics.
Where's it coming from, Sean? Because that's another.
It was a Gallup poll.
Okay.
Yeah.
Poll. Yeah, another poll.
And that was recent. That was just on February 14th that they did the Gallup poll. And it was over, where's the number? I think it said it was over 12,000 people.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I don't think that I trust polls anymore because we saw what happened with, the past two. No, actually, well, just this past election. Like pollsters, I think they should be fired. I mean, they
past two elections
completely wrong. Right, it was the past two, right? So I don't. For me, that's nothing like that.
No, I'm agreed. It's just about the only thing we have to try to get any information from, unluckily, is the polls. is to see. I agree with you. Do I trust them? No. I just take it as a piece of data and go, hey, okay. All right. So do you want to move on to Texas? Go ahead. Go on, Sun-Soo. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, do you think that actually makes sense and supports the fact that there were 75, 78 million people who voted Republican? Those numbers don't match.
No, they're pretty close, because what it shows is there was about 9% more people that voted Democrat than who said Republican. And, if you do 74 million and 80 something million, like I said, the problem is most Democrats don't go out and vote. Democrats have a lower rate of voting than I think Republicans do in general. I mean, does anyone disagree with that? Do we think Democrats vote more than Republicans besides this last election?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. Of what's been going on. Right.
Yeah. I think Republicans just get out and vote more. Personally, they're more dedicated to it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk real quick about Texas. I know you all saw it in the news. I'm not sure if you guys know, and I got a little bit of data on it because this has all been crazy. The ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, is actually the main one that runs the electrical grid in Texas. They supply power to more than 25 million Texans, and there are 29.4 million Texans in general, and they represent about 90% of the state's electrical load. So they're the ones in charge of this. In 2011, which is actually 10 years ago, they had a similar winter storm that came through, and they lost power for 3.2 million Americans back then. They knew about the problem. They didn't appear to do anything about it. The issue is they're not federally regulated, because they don't go across state lines. So I guess my question to each of you is, what do you think should be done about this, or anything about this tragedy that happened in Texas? Anyone want to go first? I won't pick an order. Go ahead, Sun-Soo, you can go.
Why is Chris so serious?
Because this is serious.
Get a smile. Turn that frown upside down, Chris. Turn that frown upside down.
This is
All
not
right.
a joke.
People died, Sun-Soo.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't even think you heard my question. Don't worry.
No, so you're saying what should we have done, or what can we do to fix this
What do you think
problem, right?
should have been done, since the same thing happened 10 years ago and cost lives, and they knew about it?
They needed to winterize their systems for sure, and apparently that was discussed, but nothing was ever done. I think they need to reevaluate their sources of energy, because from what I heard and researched was that, like, the windmills or whatever, they fail. I think they only provided 2% of their total.
Right. Yeah. Most of it's natural gas,
which was devastating, because they were a big chunk of the energy that's provided there in Texas, because it's subsidized, and so it's hard for the natural gas and all them to compete with the windmill, all of that source of energy. But obviously, someone dropped the ball. They should have done something. They should have winterized all of their systems. I don't know. I don't know what these people. I don't know what I would do if I were in Texas. I mean, I know someone that flew in and flew out just in time before that whole shutdown, where there's no power, no anything. So I don't know. People need to be held responsible for sure, and I think we need to find out what was the reason for that happening.
No, I agree. Totally agree. Mike, what's your feelings about this whole thing in Texas?
I'll pass for now. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
Well, being the soundboard guy, we just lost Sun-Soo's last thing.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Oh, you did that on purpose, Chris, didn't you?
No,
You did. Right? Thank you, son.
I did it. We lost.
So well, let's go back to Sun-Soo real quick then.
What was the last thing she said? Goes, well, if I was Texas, I wouldn't know. I just know that someone flew, and then we lost everything.
The last thing she said was Chris was really good, and I like him a lot, and he's very smart.
Hey, now that we're on a little break, hey, I got to bounce, guys. I got to go to work tonight.
Oh, do you want to make a comment or anything first, or no?
Okay.
My comment is anything Chris says, and he's right.
Thank you.
Oh.
So here's the thing.
And Sun-Soo's right sometimes.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
here's the thing. The thing is that after
right,
this
guys.
debacle
All right,
that's
brother.
now happened
All
twice,
right.
After
I
this
understand.
after this debacle that's now happened twice, Texas no longer should be doing their own thing. They should be doing what all the other states are doing.
How do we make them do that though, Chris? Because their power grid doesn't cross state lines, which means it's not federally regulated. You can't federally regulate something that doesn't cross state lines.
They're not taking. So I guess a good thing we should do is put their governor in jail, put their attorney general in jail, and then I bet all of a sudden they start getting. I mean, getting things right.
We kind of have to respect states' rights, in my opinion. I'm not trying to take a side here.
No, you're
moderator, but I mean, I feel we have to respect states' rights.
But here's the thing: it's happened twice.
Agreed.
So no one's going to go to jail for the people that died.
But should the people of Texas be doing something about this? Should they look at their senators and their people that are in charge and say, "Hey,
the way
they be suing these companies?"
Nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
Well, as I understand it, the way they've set up their grid, they're not allowed to seek different resources outside their state, and that's what's caused the problem. So that all of a sudden, when they have this dramatic need for energy, they've pushed the price up from 23 cents a kilowatt. I'm just making numbers here. 23 cents a kilowatt hour up to $85 a kilowatt hour, and they can charge it because they can't go to Arizona or Louisiana or neighbors if somebody has extra power and say, "Hey, we need some help right now." And that's part of the what they've done to themselves.
Well, that's exactly correct, because then they could be federally regulated, but they're not. They're self-regulated because they don't cross state lines.
Well, I'm trying to change that, right?
I'm not sure if you guys heard, but I saw several places that people had water bills of $18,000 because their pipes ruptured and they were being charged for it. People had electric bills of $12,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris is breaking up again.
In one room. Yeah.
Are you there, Chris?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can now.
Yeah, I'm here.
You sounded weird.
So absolutely. And am I sounding weird still?
No, you're good.
Better.
Okay.
You always sound weird, but okay.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Hey, you're going to be moderating next week, Sun Tzu. Be careful.
I'm glad because we're going to see.
I love doing this. You notice how different Chris is now that he's not moderating. He's like, he's like ready to. He's just like ready to go at it with me.
Wants to rumble.
Yeah. I could go toe to toe with the best of them. So, you're right. Okay, we can't force them, but then someone needs to pay a price. Someone needs to be put up in murder charges, and all of a sudden, I bet they'll be like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll change. Let's help."
How about we find out what happened first before you go there?
We know what happened.
Find out.
Pipes froze. They weren't ready. That's what happened. I mean, it's obvious. It's in the pudding.
We know it wasn't winterized like it should have been.
Right.
And we know that
we know that the new Green Deal had nothing to do with it.
Okay.
We
know that
whoa.
It has nothing to do.
We know that their power grid runs mostly off natural gas, and when things froze, the natural gas wasn't working as well. They had problems with some of their windmills. We know that, even though, like Sun Tzu said, it's a very low percentage of power. But I think, I can't remember who mentioned it, but they're right, because they don't cross state lines. I think it was Mike, because they don't want to be federally regulated, that they put themselves in this position. And if they don't upgrade their system, it could happen again. It happened 10 years ago, same exact thing. So who do you think should be held accountable? If you had to hold somebody accountable, who do you think it should be?
Sean?
Yeah.
So the windmill source, that, from what I heard, and I could be wrong with the number, but I thought I heard them say that they account for 40% of energy for Texas, and that because they only provided 2% of their capacity.
That's low.
All the others were like at half of their capacity, either just above half. So, and what I understood is that because they basically broke down, almost to nothing, that's what affected all the others. So it was kind of the root cause that affected. And again, the other sources of energy failed as
but
well.
Isn't that again because it wasn't winterized? Because windmills go in cold weather up in Alaska. So I mean, to me, it is because they weren't winterized. Would you agree? Or Disagree.
I think that's the bottom line. That's
Okay.
the bottom line is the winterization should have
So,
happened.
again,
For sure.
this question: who should be held accountable? Should it be ERCOT, who's in charge of the power grid? Should it be the governor, who doesn't have power over the power grid? I mean, who do we think should be held accountable for this disaster?
Well, ERCOT
Yeah,
is,
like
pardon
Go ahead,
me, we're
Mike.
assuming, well, we're assuming it's similar. It's very similar to what happens to us in California with our fires, isn't it? I mean, I don't see it all being all that much different. PG&E is ultimately responsible for the power grid and running it. I
Mhm.
assume ERCOT is ultimately responsible for running the power grid.
They are. 90% of the state's load comes from ERCOT, and
Okay.
25 out of 29 million people are supplied by them.
Okay, so then if ERCOT is responsible for maintaining and doing the things necessary to prepare for the worst case scenario, which it sounds like they didn't do, that's the impression I'm getting, then obviously the organization that's responsible for that is responsible.
Yep.
And they're going to be the law, just like PG&E got sued majorly for different responsibilities during the wildfires.
Do we all kind of agree with that?
Sean, when was
I have
the last time that winter that happened in Texas again? What was the year?
2011, with 3 million people lost power, 3.2 million people lost power from a major winter storm in 2011. So 10 years ago.
So the question is, why didn't anyone since then, right? Because you have all that time that passed.
Agreed.
And so you could literally say the person that was still in office, why didn't they, take charge and start, that process? Why didn't the person after? So
in what office? In the governor's office? In what office?
The governor's office. Well, I mean,
Well,
I
that's
guess
like-
is it ultimately the governor's
No,
responsibility?
that would
I
be
don't
like
know. I
that would
mean,
be like blaming the governor of California for California's wildfires. I mean, PG&E, like Mike said, is responsible for the power grid. So ultimately, it's them that, in my opinion, that should be responsible for this.
So
Yeah.
what I was going to say was that even though I feel it's the governor's responsibility, you three have made me see that it's ERCOT's responsibility.
But
Okay.
bottom line to me and to the republic for which I stand, one nation under greed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I think it really generally boils down to money and trying to turn a profit and trying to make their stockholders happy. And instead of spending the extra, $12 billion on the maintenance that they needed to spend it on, they spent half of that, $6 billion, to their
Because they're not
investor.
regulated right.
It's not federally regulated, and most of the board of ERCOT don't live in Texas.
Yeah,
you guys,
What's that?
that Mike just reminded me of when he mentioned greed. Boeing not too long ago had their I think their 737s. They had a glitch, and 2 of their planes went down, killing all passengers, and it was all because of greed. They didn't put the money and the time to fix the issue. It was some sort of a autopilot thing that if it sensed that it was going too far up, that it would correct it and turn the nose of the plane down. And they never told the pilots that was implemented the first time that it happened. Then they told the pilot anyway. So the bottom line is, is Boeing are they federally regulated? I mean,
Yes.
they got away with it.
Well,
No, they're federally regulated. That's why the that's why the NTFA and the boards actually shut the National Transportation Committee shut down their use of those planes until the federal government approved them again. Even after they
after the second time,
after the second one, right? But they didn't happen in the U.S. But they did.
Right.
So I got one last question, real quick, because we're running really low on time, guys. And the only reason I'm asking this is because it was in the news recently. Just a quick opinion: what did you think about Ted Cruz taking his family to Cancun? Was that good, bad, indifferent? And I bring this up because my son, who me and him don't agree politically, basically said, "Dad, it's all optics. It means nothing. It's just optics." I don't agree with him. I'm not trying to break away from moderator, but my opinion with him, and me and him argue at times over politics, is that senators have power. Senators have a lot of power. Anyone who thinks a senator doesn't have power is getting a little crazy. I mean, yes, was it bad optics? I totally agree with you. But was it also a bad way to represent and lead your people that voted you in? I think that's the problem. But we'll get your guys' opinion, then we're going to end the show.
Well, I think it's funny that he let AOC raise over $2 million in Houston. You let someone who you think is fundamentally against everything you believe in go into your state and raise money. That's a foolish thing.
What does she raise money for?
Texas, the Texas disaster relief.
AOC went to Texas and raised money for the
Over
state.
$2 million.
I thought it was 4 million, Chris. I could be wrong.
I said over. So
Okay.
I no longer know the final number on that.
Yeah, she was down there when he was gone.
So, Chris, are you then saying that he shouldn't work with people from the other side of the aisle for the greater cause? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Do you want to explain to her what I'm saying, moderator, or do you want me to go in?
I think what Chris is trying to say is that when the senator of the state leaves and another House member comes into his state to raise money for his state during a natural disaster is a bad thing.
Why?
Because why did the senator leave? Because he just wanted to get away. He didn't want to deal with it.
No, it wasn't. Oh, you guys, he's a father too. All of you guys.
He has a wife,
fathers.
right? Does he have a wife? Is his wife dead or is she alive?
She's alive.
Oh, so she couldn't take her and the kids herself?
So I guess my question is, now we feel that Ted Cruz understands what it's like to cross the border, go 1,200 miles to get your kids electricity, power, and food.
Moderator, what are you doing?
I'm just asking.
Ow. Hey, I want to kind of go off topic just a tad, kind of just a comment to Sun Tzu. Because you mentioned earlier the notion about what's important to Republicans or conservatives and so on, and you're talking about not government, individual rights, not government, right? Smaller government whenever possible. But this is one of those issues that keeps coming up in terms of what happened in Texas. Does there need to be regulation to make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen? And unfortunately, it's sad, but I'm coming to the conclusion that this is where government is most important, not to stick their nose into everybody's individual rights, but to protect the mass of the people, to make sure that ERCOT is doing their job properly so that this kind of crap doesn't happen, and not only throw the state into a financial crisis, but all the people that have been affected by it. So
I can respect that. I can respect that point of view. But what I would say is I think the government is not the solution, and we see it in all different aspects of our country. They're not the solution. I think that what we need to do is at the state level is come up with solutions there. The government, I don't think they need to meddle. Like I think Sean mentioned, or maybe it was Chris, that each state is different. They all they have different needs. They function differently. I think that the government meddling is not the answer, but I can respect why you would say that. Like, I can understand where you're coming from, but I disagree with it.
Okay, but you're making the distinction between federal government, the overbranching form of government, versus, and your preference is states should be able to solve that, not a bigger branch from the federal government. That's right. What you're saying, right? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, did we just lose Chris again?
Why did he leave?
I don't know, but I don't know if that means the soundboard's off.
Does that mean I can talk about him now? I know it's still on.
I think we're still live on YouTube though, even though the sound's off.
I think Chris is really mad at me, but I'm loving it.
Oh no,
no.
Like,
Here he comes back again. Okay, he's back. He's back.
His daughter unplugged it. What did she unplug, Chris?
Okay.
All right, guys.
Let's wrap it up.
Why don't we wrap it up, Chris? Since you normally don't get a chance to do the outro, why don't you do the outro tonight? And thank you, everybody, for your following me and being nice and respectful and giving good answers.
As you can see now, this is We Could Be Wrong, but who cares? Your host today was Christopher Harris, Mike, and Sun Tzu with moderator Sean. Please write all complaints to Sean. Please know that it was Sean that chose the topics and Sean that couldn't control the panel. This playing, that's too rough. Thank you very much. Good night, guys. We had a great night. Thank you. And we're off there.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Hey, Sun Tzu.
She's frozen.
Is she? Is she frozen?
She's frozen.
Because she knew.
Oh, we can talk about her.
Yeah.
Oh, she left.
She left. Hold on. Let me.
Oh, she left already?
Yeah. I'm positive that the thing was. Is she now? I don't know what was happening.